initiative that would take us forward in terms of an online audit. We want to find out, in terms of Pan-African education, where is the good practice out there? Who is doing what? We want to know where the key players are, the key practitioners are, so that we don't reinvent the wheel. We can duplicate good practice, we can extend good practice, we can know where the gaps are, and then we can fill those and move forward. And the outcome of that audit would have then been a workshop in South Africa for about 20 to 25 practitioners to come together and map where the activities are and where the work program. Unfortunately, for a number of reasons, partly to do with the internal reorganization in ISA, partly to do with all kinds of other issues, those programs that were supposed to happen between last year and this year haven't happened. However, we still have those commitments on the table. We still know that those activities are necessary and pertinent and doable. And what we have decided to do in this session, in this year's conference, we have produced an information sheet. Have you got those here, speaking? That we're going to distribute round. Yes. So please, we know that not everybody here is going to be interested in the education area. Some people are interested in politics and governance. Some people are interested in economic issues. But if you are interested in the area of education, please complete that sheet. Give us as much comprehensive information as possible about what you are doing, what you know that is out there, what your interests are. Because this time around, we are determined that we will use that information to set up an online contact group. So we will be getting in touch with you by email. And the job of that online contact group is that we're going to produce that questionnaire. There's going to be a questionnaire that will go online to participants of this conference from the first in 2011, the second in 2012, and this year we have that database to get them to be able to give us information on Pan-African education issues. And out of that, we are determined that we will have that workshop, if not by the end of this year, at least early next year, before the next Scramble conference. We are determined that something practical and tangible must come out of this year's talk shop. We do not want just to talk, we want to act. And we need your support to take that forward. Because our young people do not come to conferences like this. What they have is a sense of frustration. And they look to us as the leaders to say, what the heck are you doing? You only tell us about the conferences that you're having. And when you come back from these conferences, we do not see any benefit. So let's start to be accountable. And I hope that you will participate in the discussion session that will follow. Later on this evening at 5 o'clock, am I right? Pindile is going to lead an hour session on Pasen. For those who want to know more, for those who want to have more interaction on the education issue before they leave the Scramble conference. We're fortunate that this evening's timetable gives us a bit of a quiet slot. So 5 till 6, 6:30, and Pindile is going to let you know what room, but we definitely have the time. Those who are interested in Pasen, in education issues, please get together to be able to work out a plan, further details. Unfortunately, I will not be here because I have to go to Addis to fight on this front in the African peer review mechanism. For my sins, I've been asked to chair the session on education. We actually stole the title of that session for this session, which is about how do we get the African peer review mechanism after the 10-year review to open up and start to address benchmark standards for African governments in education, in health, in all those key issues. The bread and butter stuff that the ordinary African on the street is vexed about. The first 10 years of the APRM has been about, yes, the human rights issues, the governance, that's all well and good. But the average African on the street wants to know about education, about health, about infrastructure, about services. So for my sins, I'm going there with fellow comrades to go and do battle to make sure that we get this now, education into the APRM with benchmarks, with indicators, with indices, and assessment processes to hold African governments to account. And I will be taking whatever messages you have from this forum, forward to that. So please, let it all out. I'm big enough and ugly enough. I'll go over there and tell them all about it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Elizabeth. I think you are becoming less of an engineer and more of government. Thank you very much. The floor is open for discussion on the issues of education and comments on what Pan-African education, I'm being corrected, and also what our brother Oscar tried to educate us on in terms of youth unemployment and participation, not only participation in the different groups in UK, in Canada, in US. So I'll just open this for discussion. I will. Is there a roving mic? Yes.
Yeah, there's a mic going around.
In your discourse or your question, I want to concentrate on certain specifics. In Canada, 40% of African Canadian students do not graduate from high school. In the United Kingdom or in England, the same thing happened. In Brazil, I was told something like 80% of students drop out before they finish high school. In Canada, according to the Conference Board of Canada, 70% of the high-paying jobs in the 21st century will require at least post-secondary education and training beyond. If 70% of African Canadian youth are not completing that basic prerequisite, what is going to happen? If the same thing is happening in England, the same thing is happening like that in Brazil, in the United States, is the same thing happening. And I do not, and I put you on the continent, you can speak about that better than I can.
There's a roving mic going around for people who want to speak. Yeah.
We'll start from the back, this side first, and then we'll go to the other side. From the back.
There were hands up at the back.
No,
Is the mic not working?
Okay.
Okay. It's quite a small room, so if people raise their voices, I'm sure we can hear each other.
Kimamine Hussein, practitioner in England. I used to be the chair of an organization called the Pan-African Grassroots Educational Network in England. And I've been involved in other aspects of education. The condition to which you have addressed us today is something that has been very much analyzed in the past. And I want to be a little bit provocative and suggest that relevance of the curriculum to our people is one of the great challenges that we face, not only in white-dominated societies, but also on our own continent. My question revolves around our response to that. One of the things we found worked was talking about ourselves as African people, addressing the question of identity. Now, it is intriguing to me that in our discourse today, Oscar has been rather consistent in saying Africans, but I heard black being used very often. And when I listen to conversations in this country and other parts of the continent, we tend to define ourselves not as Africans, but as black people. And I believe that we confuse our identity with nationality. And therefore, throwing this out there as one of the policy objectives we could have to say, let us define ourselves as who we are. We may not know fully who an African is, but we're the ones who've got to seize this moment and do the definition of ourselves as Africans. And therefore, we will also define who is not an African. Because if you're defining something, you define what it is and what it is not. Shall we have some reaction to that from the panel, please?
I think let's take about 3 or 4
Yes,
questions
point
and
of
then have a
consent, yeah.
response.